Hi everyone. I recently produced a review and mini tutorial about my experiences using Dehancer Pro in DaVinci Resolve. We'd use this to color grade video. I didn't want to leave out those who shoot stills, so in this video I bring you an overview of Dehancer's photo plugin, Dehancer Film, which is available for Lightroom Classic, Photoshop, Capture One, Affinity, and as an iOS app. It's probably fair to start with the same question as before, i.e. why bother to create the look of analog film? Well, for me, sometimes the clinical look of digital is just too perfect, too saturated. Equally, I just like the film look sometimes. I do like the cinematic look, or at least I like some elements of that look. Like grain, halation and bloom. I think it does bring something to imagery, and I do actually think it brings something to digital images, even just on its own, without having lots and lots of grain. You can do lots and lots of really creative stuff. But in the end, of course, it's up to you and how you use your creativity with Dehancer, or for that matter, any other plugin. So yes, I could head out and shoot film, but it's not quite that simple, and it's certainly not necessarily that cheap if you don't already have the kit. In my case, it would also mean lugging another camera around with film and what have you, and I simply just don't want to do that nowadays. On the other hand, even if you do, how far do you go? Do you spend hours in a dark room? Even if you take the shortcut and just simply send your film away for processing, you still have to wait for that processed film to come back. And even then, we have to rely on a scanning to scan these negatives or positive images to bring those photographs to life in the digital world. So it's a bit more of a convoluted process. And to put it another way as well, of course, lots of people just simply love the cinematic film look, just like many people love vinyl when it comes to music, or love the feel and look of vintage clothes. The wonderful thing is, in this digital age, it doesn't have to be one or the other anymore. We're lucky. We can embrace the best of both worlds. Now, I come from a film background, so I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised with the ease in which we can create the film look using Dehancer, and sometimes I think this should be harder. So we're going to start the process of using Dehancer to produce a film, but the first thing we need to do is ensure that you prepare your image properly. Now, Dehancer have some instructions to tell you how to prepare your images correctly, but I'm finding the easiest way is simply reduce the contrast a bit, knock back the saturation, deal with any color issues with regard to temperature and things like that. So do that. Make sure that this image is not over sharpened. That is really important. If you have an over sharpened image and you start using Dehancer, when it comes to the grain side of things, you're going to end up with a really, really grainy image, and it just will not look right. So deal with that. Knock down any other things just to give you a generally flat image. So take down shadows a little bit and what have you. So that's what I've done. So if you look in this first image, you can see that I've done that. So okay, so we'll move on now and we'll start using Dehancer to convert this image. Okay, so here we are in the Dehancer photo window. For some odd reason, it always goes to last edit. So whatever image you've worked on, it goes to the last edit, which I find it, to be honest, I find a bit frustrating. Why it can't just go back to your original shot so you can start from it? I don't know. But anyway, it also goes back to the preset window. So we have presets here, and then we have film profiles there. So in the preset window, you have the Dehancer Teams presets, your own personal presets, and featured presets, and some imported presets if you you've imported any. That's of no interest to us today, so go into film profiles and you have to tick the box. So we're now into all films. There are a lot, there's 60 odd film stocks to choose from. Them same ones that are in that window are here, so if you go down there and you work your way down, that's all of them. Now obviously I'm going to work today in color negative, so you can choose down here, so color negative, motion picture, color positive, so slide, black and white or whatever. Well, I'm just going to go straight into the color negative, and then it just reduces the number of ones to look through. I'm going to go down. I have some of my favorites, favorite films I tend to go for. For example, I like Fuji Superior. I do like that. I like Kodak Color Plus. I like that for its warmth. And then there's Kodak Extra and Kodak Gold. And if you look at Color Plus and Gold, you can just see there's some differences there. So today I'm going for Kodak Color Plus, but you've got plenty to choose from. A lot of the time it's great just to work around and just experiment, really. So we set up there Kodak Color Plus. First thing to look at then is we've got the slider here which allows you to push and pull the negative. Now this doesn't push and pull the exposure as such. It tends to deal with the density in the highlights, the contrast of the negative, so it's not for overexposure and underexposure in this situation. So there's no need to make any changes there. In fact, Dehancer does such a good job that there isn't much to do when we go over to the developer side here. So there's your film source. We don't need to do anything with that. We can alter, for example, the compensation, or just to show you something here as well, we can make alterations. Well, you can just, if you've made a lot of alterations here and you want to reset it, then you just click on reset. If you have altered something once and you think, and these settings are fine, then you just double click on that and then it resets it, so you don't have to lose any settings down here. And then of course you can just switch things on. Okay, so there's nothing I need to do on here. I'm perfectly happy with these. I don't really want to warm it up too much or give it too much of a blue hour look. That's how we were before, and I don't really want to do that. A little bit of warmth wouldn't harm, but we'll leave it as it is. So film developer then, color boost. Well, we can boost the colors here. Again, I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to leave things as they are. Same with the gamma correction, color separation. No need to play about with anything. I do not want a saturated image anyway. Film compression. So we can look at the impact of this compression by simply moving this up and down, so you can see the impact of it. Reduce that a little bit. On here you can adjust the white points, so you can take them up and down. You can see the white points increasing and decreasing. Again, Dehancer does a good job. We don't have to change much. Tonal range, you can see the range in which these things are affected. I'm going to just give it a little bit more there. I don't want to go too far, because what I don't want, these areas here will just start, they'll burn out completely, and I don't really want that. Keep working our way down. We can look at our black points now. I could do with these areas here just lightening up a little bit. So I'm just going to take these black points, and if you just go there, you can see how it darkens here, and then it lightens it right up and gives you a bit of a flat image. So all I'm going to do here is just take that up a little bit. Don't want to go too far. To about there. White points, obviously bothered about this. If I go up there, look, it takes it out. If I go up there, obviously it burns them out madly. So I'm just going to give these a little tweak. And that's the thing with Dehancer. It's about tweaks rather than major changes to the changes that Dehancer makes. So when it suggests a film emulation and you click on it and you try it, generally it's fairly close. It's not too bad. So we're working our way down now to print. Want to print, and it's on Kodak Endura glossy paper. You can pick another one. So for example, Fujifilm. Click on that, and you can see how it look on Fujifilm paper. Here we're just going to go down to the one suggested, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Here's all your exposures and things, so you can make any little tweaks here if you wanted to. And look, it's nearly there. We don't really have to do a lot. Don't really be increasing contrast too much or decreasing it. It's quite close. Color head, well, this is the same as the color head on your room, larger as it were, and you can see that you're going to get your changes here all fairly self-explanatory. Again, you can hit gang if you just want to do this little global change on here, so you don't want to change things too much with separate, so you don't want to give it more blue or whatever. So you can do that and just reset if you want to change it. Now I think that's just maybe it's a little bit too sort of blue for me, so I am just going to change these a little tiny bit. I just want to slightly more yellow. I don't want to go any more than that. I really do not want to be changing things too much. Work our way down. So now we're into the shadows and tone. If we go up, you can see how the shadows are deepened there, and then we go down this way and we've got lots and lots of blue. So basically that's warming the shadows up and that's cooling the shadows down. Same for tones, warming them up and cooling them down. And again for highlights, one and the same. So again, I don't want to do too much. You can make some adjustments here, and then you can start, you can play about with the impact, so you can reduce the impact of any changes you've made as well. So you can make these changes here and then use this slider here to change that. But again, I don't really need to do much there. Film grain, this is sort of the big part of it, I suppose. Now if you look here, you can see the film grain, it's appeared in the sky. So if I just turn that off and then back on again, so you can see there's major changes there. Now if we look down, I don't want too much grain. I'm not keen on having too much, and that, while it pretty much looks like the film would, I'm just going to reduce that down a little bit, not by much, just a little bit. But what I am going to do is look at the grain in the shadows. So if I increase the grain in the shadows, then you can see how heavy that is, and if I go all the way down here, then you can hardly see any. So I'm just going to drop it back a little bit in the shadow areas, and it's the same for the mid-tones as well. You know, we don't want too much, and we don't obviously want too little. There's none there. So it's really handy this way. It reduces the grain in the shadow. So I'm in the tones, in the mid-tones, so I'm just going to just leave it there in the mid-tones. Same for highlights. We can see, if we look here, we can see the grain in the highlights there, and if I just increase it, you can see how heavy that grain becomes, and then we can turn it off altogether. So but I'm just going to pretty much leave that as it is. I do want some grain, just don't want to go too mad on it. So I'm just going to pull that back a little bit for the shadows, and the amount of grain just down a little bit. Don't want to degrade it too much. Okay, then as we work our way down, you've got where you can do the highlights or whatever, and then the color of the grain into the negative. So you can go positive, which will give you less grain, because positive film generally does, and then negative, which creates more grain. So obviously we're going to stay in negative analog. And now we're down to two things that are inherent in film, and that is halation and bloom. Halation being the glow that you will get around these edges here, and I'll just give you an example of it there. As you can see, if you just look there, you can see there's quite a heavy halation. Let's go on and off. Again, we don't want to overdo it. Film has halation. It's something that is unique to the film. It gives it that look. You can check your halation levels and see just how much it's been affected by clicking on the mask mode, and then if you look in here, you can just see the areas that are affected by halation. Now if I amplify it, go for the top, you can see how heavily it affects the image, and if I just click out of mask mode, you can see that it's really heavily affected there. It spots the image. So what I tend to do is just look at it like that. You can just drop it down a tiny little bit if you want. We don't want too much halation. It's in everything in moderation, like that. I think that's probably acceptable there where it is. don't think we want much more. Bloom. Now bloom is going to give us that lovely soft glow, and if we just click on it now, and then you can probably see that glow that's appeared around all of the white and grey areas in this. Again, I'll just switch it on and off. Now for my taste that's a bit too much, but again we can go into mask mode here, have a look, and we can see all the areas affected by this bloom. Again, if I go excessive, and you can see there it's quite heavily affected. Take the mask off and obviously the image is completely spoiled there, but you can see that how major effect this has. So I'm just going to go back into mask mode, and I'm just going to reset it, and then I'm going to drop it back a bit because there's quite a bit of light in here, quite a bit of white. So I do, again, just don't want to go over the top. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that now. So we've got a little bit of elation, we can see just in some areas. It doesn't do every area, it just only does the big high contrast areas within the film. So I'm just going to take that back a little bit more, just don't want too much. I think that's probably somewhere near. And then down to the last one, which is vignette. So you can give it a vignette if you want. It's entirely up to you with that, but I think it works quite well either way. Choice is yours. So that's pretty much about it really, as far as any changes I'm going to make with that particular film look. And then if we just go to where the preview is, I'll just click it off. That's the original. Yeah, quite a clinical looking image there, quite blue, but certainly a clinical clean look. And then that film cinematic look, and I'm quite happy with that. And that's it really. I hope you've enjoyed it. And then we just click OK, and then we save what we've got, and then you have your cinematic film look.